Hello kids and welcome back. My name is Candace and I work for the Art for All program at the Galveston Arts Center. I get to work with many wonderful kids at the Resource Crisis Center. Do you enjoy reading? If so, I have a special art project for you that is also useful. Today, we are going to be making multimedia bookmarks. You can make your reading experience more special by having a custom unique bookmark. Now let's get into the materials we'll need. We'll need colored pencils, a regular pencil, a kneadable eraser, and watercolor paint. For the watercolor, we'll definitely need watercolor brushes. This next material is a little bit strange, but we are going to need salt. Salt gives watercolor a very unique texture. You will also need something to paint on and a container to hold water. This is optional, but I like to use tape. And the last thing we'll need is something to dry the brushes on. You can use a reusable rag, paper towels, or what I like to use is a toilet paper roll. Toilet paper rolls are very absorbent and the water dries quickly. And because of that, it will not get mushy over time and you can keep it and reuse it over and over again. For the bookmark, I like to use watercolor paper because it's nice and thick. You will also need a pair of scissors and a ruler. Your bookmark can be any size that you wish. I chose mine to be 6 inches by 1.5 inches. Before I start any art piece, I always make sure to sketch something out first. I wanted to draw something from the ocean, so I decided to draw a dolphin. You can draw a dolphin too, but you can also draw any other type of sea creature that you want. I think a starfish would be cute too. You could draw Patrick or SpongeBob. You can also choose to draw a fish, a penguin, or a seal. Now that I'm thinking about it, a water Pokemon would be really neat. So once you have an idea of what creature you want to draw, you want to get a regular pencil and you want to sketch it very lightly. You want to do this just in case you might have to erase something. Once you're done with your sketch, you want to get a kneadable eraser or any other type of eraser and erase as much of the pigment as you can. I like using kneadable erasers because it does not mess up the paper. Now that the sketch is finished, we are going to tape it. What I like to do before sticking the tape down is putting it on a piece of cloth first so that way it doesn't tear the paper. After I lay it down, I press it firmly down so that way it doesn't come off when we add water. This will not only create a nice white border around the bookmark, but it will also prevent the paper from buckling. After it's taped down, now it's time to add water. You want to make sure that you grab the right amount of water. If you grab too little, the water will dry before you can completely cover it in water. If you apply too much water, the tape might come off and the paint will be too diluted. You'll know when it's the right amount when you look at it from the side and there's a nice sheen on it. Once you lay down water, now it's time to add the paint. I decided to go for a primary blue, but you can choose any other type of blue that you wish. If your water dries before you can get the paint on, just add a little bit more water. That's what I did. You also want to add water to the watercolor itself. The reason that we put water on the watercolor paper first is so that the paint can spread evenly. This is called the wet on wet method, or the wet on wet technique. So I decided to do a gradient effect, so what I did was I put a little bit of paint at the top and then more on the bottom. The more water that you add to the paint, the lighter the paint gets. You want to keep adding paint slowly until you get the gradient that you were looking for. Always remember that watercolor dries lighter. Also keep in mind how much you are scrubbing the paper. If you scrub it too much, then you will go right through the paper onto the table. Once you are done adding the paint, now it's time to add the salt. You want to sprinkle it evenly. And once it dries, it should look something like this. You have to make sure that it's dry before you start brushing off the salt. This will create a bit of a mess, but just be careful and try not to get it on the floor. In my opinion, one of the best parts of doing a watercolor painting is taking off the tape. It is very satisfying. To prevent tearing, make sure that you pull away from the painting. Also, to prevent tearing, you want to use artist tape. Once the tape is down, now it's time to draw. The drawing that I did before the watercolor was very light, so I went ahead and went over it with the pencil again. When using watercolor and colored pencils, you want to make sure that you use the watercolor first. This is because pencils are either oil or wax-based. That means that you can't lay anything water-based over it. When I say water-based, I don't only mean watercolor, I also mean acrylic and markers. With the pencils, you want to make sure to do nice light layers because if you press too hard, that's called burnishing. That means that you're pushing down the tooth of the paper so you can't add any more pigment. You want to slowly start out with a lighter pencil and then make your way to a darker pencil. One secret to making any drawing good is adding a lot of contrast. It's important to add a lot of lights and darks. Just keep adding pigment until you're happy with it. As for the colors, I decided to color the dolphin a light bluish gray. As for the darker shades on the dolphin, I used a deep purplish blue. I also added a nice primary blue to the dolphin just to add a little bit more of the background into the drawing. For the red ball, I used 2 different colors of red, one lighter and one darker. Then I used a white pencil and the same gray pencil that I used on the dolphin. The reason that I like using colored pencils and watercolor is because they each have their own strengths. Although I love the look of watercolor, sometimes it just doesn't get dark enough for me. Colored pencils get nice and dark, but it doesn't have the same feeling and flow of watercolor. This is just what I like. Now, if you want to do something else other than colored pencils, you can use acrylic, markers, or even inks. The best thing to do when you're creating your bookmark is to be creative. Just like the books you read, you want your bookmarks to tell a story. Since I don't have any more tips for you, I would love for you to listen to music while you watch me finish up this drawing. Once you're done with your bookmark, it is ready to be used. It's really fun having your own unique handmade bookmark. Thank you so much for making this art project with me, and I hope you keep making lots of art. I'll see you later. Bye!